Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to look at how to analyze customer satisfaction survey data. So this metric is one of the customer experience metrics where you want to gauge customers' feedback in regards to a service you've rendered to them, like the customer service. It will also be like you want to get their feedback in terms of a product they have used, and so on. So this metric is commonly called the CSAT score, and in most applications, it's just a single question where, for example, you visited a website and you are leaving, and a question pops out to rate your satisfaction with your experience with the website. It could also be a store that you are leaving the store, and so on. So we are going to use a data. Please note that it's not a real life data. So we have a survey where we have passengers of an airline. So sometimes when you take this flight towards getting to London, you will see a question, some short survey will pop up for you to rate your experience from onboarding, the in-service, in-flight service, and so on. So, as I said, the CSAT score sometimes, mostly, is just one single metric. There's some controversy as to how effective that is, and mostly, it do follow up with a single, an open-ended question where they want to get a feedback with regards to the rating that you give. So, oftentimes, it's a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from 1 to 5. And where 1 means very dissatisfied, neutral, satisfied, and then 5 being very satisfied. So we have a survey here where for the airline passengers, we ask them to rate their satisfaction with our airline's in-flight service. So we have parameters like availability of the flight attendants when they needed them, courtesy of the flight crew, quality of food and drinks we served them, appearance of flight crew, pilot communication with passengers, and overall, putting everything together, what is their satisfaction with the in-flight service? Okay, so usually you have this metrics, and it's helpful because it gives you a deeper insight into what aspect of the in-flight service is having a lower score, and that passengers want to be improved. So we have this survey data, we collected the data, and we have this. So we have some other information of the passengers, like the gender, we have the highest education, main occupation, the smartphone, phone devices they use, and so on. Alright, so with this survey data, we're going to look at how do we summarize this Likert scale customer satisfaction scores across these parameters in a single chart using a pivot table, and be able to compare and point out to stakeholders of our airline that in this flight, this is what customers expect. So if we analyze, we can have a very simple chart at the end of the day that we can present to stakeholders and see, okay, based on the feedback we've gathered from our passengers in flight number ABC on this day, this is what they complain. So you can track it for like 1 or 2 months, and it becomes consistent. Then stakeholders will have something like a data to roll back a decision, and get to solve the issue for customers and improve customer experience in terms of their in-flight service. Okay, so how do we handle this in a pivot table? Okay. So first, what you need to do is to load your data to Power Query. So once you load it to Power Query, there are 2 approaches to calculating the customer satisfaction score, or scores if we have more than one parameter that we want to track. So one is where like you take the average of all the scores that every respondent gave. Then we call it a composite approach. Then the second part is to take the top two box, that is those who selected very satisfied and those who selected satisfied. Then you only look at what percentage of the respondents selected is out of that respondent. So we call it the top two box. So these are the two common, these are the two approaches to calculating the CSAT score. It must be noted that there is still debate between applied research in analyzing a Likert scale and also in the theoretical aspect of analysis in terms of literature on theoretical applications. There's a debate as to whether taking the average is why, like, there is some statistical backing as to why we should treat the Likert scale data like that. But in the applied field, like most like market research and other social sciences, the average, they also argue the average works once we have a large sample size. So we wouldn't go into that debate, and we'll focus on the applied side and use the average and also look at the top two box scores. Alright. So let's first of all, we have several parameters. So first, what we need to do is to select all these parameters we want to analyze. The customers give their feedback on. So once we do that, we'll go to transform, and pivot only selected columns. Alright, so we have this. So we can see that we have included the ID column. So when you are pivoting, you have to be sure that you don't select columns that you don't need. So let's undo, and then we select again. So let's select only these columns that passengers gave their scores to. Okay, so we have all these columns. So let's unpivot. Okay, so once you unpivot, this one are the parameters, or we can call them in-flight service parameters. So in-flight service parameters. And then these are the scores, the Likert, the satisfaction scores that each customer gave. Alright, so like I mentioned, there's still controversy as to whether we can treat the Likert scale data as an interval data where we can apply summary statistics like standard deviation, and then also looking at the mean, just taking averages. So there is a controversy between the applied aspect where it's being commonly applied, but in the theoretical scholarship, it's clear that we can't just go forward to treat that as an interval data. So there's still some bit of gap between that. Look at the average score, and then we also have the top two box score where we look at just those who gave a score of 4 and 5, and then we also add a last one for the bottom two score, those who gave 2 and 1, so that we can have both cases. Alright, so now so let's add a column. So add a column and call it top two box. So what it means is that we want to when our satisfaction score is greater than 3, that means those who selected 4 and 5, we want to return columns that they selected. We want to respond the parameters that they selected. Otherwise, we want it to be null. Okay, so we have it. So this is our top two box. Now let's add another column again and call it the bottom two box. So this one too, when the score is less than 3, those who selected 1, who gave 2 and 1, you want to return the in-service parameters they selected, they gave the scores to. Alright, then we have it. So once we do this, we go to home and then load this to our data model. So let's add this to our data model. We want to generate a pivot table report in an existing sheet. And then our top two box, let's look at the average first. So we have in-flight service parameters, and then what scores did they give for this? Then we pick the satisfaction score and drop it here. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to find the average. So these are the average scores that they gave. Out of 5. So we have our average satisfaction score rating. So let's call this one average rating out of 5. Alright. So you can format this by using on where you are applying it. You may have a different way of categorizing this rate. So let's use this one. This one is based on Trustpilot's rating, which we have modified. Combine that with the average score, which is 4.0 going 4.0, which is the average rating of all apps based on the survey that we did in the past. And then Apple Store ranges like 4.5. So we use this to kind of categorize the rating. Okay. So scores that are below 3.5, they really need improvement if your application is on apps. Okay. So now we are based on customer experience, which is the in-flight service experience of passengers in our flight. So we want to see which parameters needs improvement, which ones are we doing well, which parameters we need to improve. So let's format this using conditional formatting and using this scale. So we select this and go to conditional formatting, new rule. So what we want to do is that we want to create a formula and say that, okay, if the average rating is greater than or equal to 4.45, then we should give it a color green. You can give can format the box like this. Okay. And then when it is greater than, we add another rule and say, okay, now if it is between 3.95 and 4.44, we want is that range, we call it is light green. We can give it like a light green with the borders we can format the borders of the cell, give it an outline, create, and then if it is between 4.5 to 3.94, 3.45, 3.94. So it's average. So let's give it green. Format this one. Okay. And then lastly, when it is below when it is less than 3.44, then it needs to be improved. So let's give it a color. We format this one to again, and then we have this Okay, so that is what we have. So this is our average rating out of 5. Okay, so we can keep this. Let's format it. Let's remove this autofit so that we can format it very well. Okay, so this is what we have. So this is the average rating approach. So average, or the composite approach. So average rating. Okay, now the second approach, let's copy this down, is the top 2 box approach. So the top 2 box, let's look for the top 2 box. So let's remove this, then we look for the top 2 box, put it here. Now we'll count how many people selected this top 2 box. Okay, so let's right click and then summarize by distance count. Okay, so this gives us the counts, the number of people who selected the top 4 and 5 for this appearance of flight crew. We have 25 people selected out of 49. So let's show this as percentage of the 49, and then it gives us a percentage for the top 2 box. So let's call this one top 2 box scores. Okay, then we can copy this to down again, and then we have, so we can add, let's add, so let's copy this down too. So this is our top 2 box scores, and then this is our bottom 2 box. So now let's look for the bottom 2 box, and then take out this, and then we'll place this one there. Okay, so this one, we have that one to percentage, it's there. So we have summarized our Likert scale data. Then let's look at how do we make it more presentable. So let's keep this. So what we can do is that these are the 2 approaches. So the top 2 box score, where you look at the top 2. So what this means is that half of the passengers suggest they were satisfied with the appearance of the flight crew. So 51% of the passengers suggest or report they were satisfied with the appearance of the flight crew. So another approach is that where we convert this average rating, because stakeholders, it like to make it very easy to understand. Sometimes people also convert the average rating to percentage. So when you do that, you have to state it. Okay, so convert this by 5 into percentage. So that is it. So you can name this as average rating converted to percentage. Okay, then we have it there. So what it means, how do you interpret this average rate? So what it means is that you need to make reference that on the passengers on average. So for example, you can say that the average rating, based on average rating, passengers expect the pilots an improvement in pilot communications and also appearance of the flight crew. And so we see that these are the two parameters that needs improvement. So but overall, availability of flight attendant, courtesy of flight crews, overall service level is in the great range. So based on this this scale that we have, it is in the great range. So, but pilot, communication, appearance of flight crew are those parameters for improvement. And then when you look at the top two box score too, those that are having lower score, again here, they are, if you look at it, you see is the pilot communication. And then the one with the highest score is quality of the food that they served. So these passengers believe that they were happy with the quality of the food they served. So if you look at the average rating too, is the highest. But if you look at the percentage, you see that there are some differences in the percentages. So because the average takes all the values together, it gives a bit of variability, and then the average rating, because the average takes every respondent, participant, and respondent into the computation. So if you look at the next one to after the communication, so these are the bottom two parameters with the top score. So it still points out that these are the parameters to be improved. So if the purpose of the feedback is to identify what parameters to improve, then any of the methods still points out to that. But where maybe they are very close metrics, it may be difficult to really figure out what will work. So how do you balance this? So when you come to the bottom two box, so these are the percentage of passengers who were not happy with so here, if you look at here to see pilot communication was having the highest, so it's most of the participants compared to other parameters were not happy. So it's really that means that it's consistent when you look at the average rating, the top two box and also the bottom two box. So how do you present this and how do you handle that? So what you do is that you can combine all this together. So let's copy this. You can bring this one, the top two box here, and copy it, paste it here, but make sure that it corresponds to the parameters. Then the bottom two box to bring it here. Okay. So let's do this together. So this is top two box first. Then this is bottom two box first. Okay. So we can format this and make it very presentable. Let's hide this. You can hide the grand total if you don't need it, and then include the base. The base here is equal to the total sample. So here our total sample is 49. So we can format that, make it very presentable. Let's format it very nice. Okay, this one too we can give. So this you can copy this one. Okay, so let's format this too and change the color. Okay. Okay, so that is it. So this is how we handle CSAT score. So a case where you have just one parameter, right? Just one service, it could be like customer support or customer service metric. It's just one. So that one you don't need to pivot. You just only need to pick that only column, and then you cross-tabulate. You can cross-tabulate that with any variable that you want to call. first tabulate with and then do your interpretation. So here, based on the analysis, what we can suggest to stakeholders is that appearance of flight crew and communications of the pilot are the parameters customers expect better service with. So these are the two parameters for improvement. All right, thank you.